Welcome, college basketball fans, to the Full Court Press Podcast with LT and Sammy D. This is the podcast that brings you legendary stories from college basketball's golden era and dives in deep with a current analysis of today's game. Get ready for the most energetic and entertaining college basketball podcast around. Let's get it.
I'm so excited. I cannot hide it. I know. I want you. Welcome to another Full Court Press Podcast, a college basketball experience. Luke Taylor here with my guy, Sam Davidson. And don't forget, as we always open, subscribe, rate, and review. If you're watching on YouTube, pound the red subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, remember to subscribe. Also give us a 5-star rating because we want to touch more college basketball fans. We've got some excitement coming up. We've got the Legends podcast that just started. I got another one. I didn't tell you this. I reached out to another legend, hopefully get on the podcast. And I didn't tell you this morning, Sam, and he hearted the message, but didn't respond.
That's all right.
I've had two guys.
Yeah.
I asked through Instagram Messenger. They hearted it, but they never responded. So I don't know what the code on the street is on that one.
You have to ask your kids. Maybe they can help you out with that.
That's true. True. Your son's too blind. But we got another great episode, and I actually got to sing my UIC alma mater to him.
You've been singing a lot today. You sang on this little intro here a minute ago. You sing on the upcoming episode, this episode with our guest.
Yes.
Like, how do you still know your alma mater fight song? Like, is that?
It's so bad. It's so bad. Like, it's like, like DePaul's one is my other alma mater. Do. Like, it's good. TEMONS, and then UIC's May the Flames burn brightly forever. Yeah, it's awful. So it was cool talking to a guy that I was a conference rival. We had a Butler graduate, and I was at University of Illinois Chicago playing a little sports back then and got to witness a lot of great games and see Butler kind of develop into what they are now. And it was fun. I love mid-major sports, as you know, as a mid-major athlete. What would you call DePaul? DePaul's.
Well, I mean, when we were there, we were Conference USA, which would be mid-major.
High major.
Sure. Now it's
no, don't say sure. Just I'm right, because look who we had our conference. We had Memphis, Louisville, Cincinnati, Marquette.
Yeah.
Those were. Remember those? You remember Cumont Greer dunking on? Was it Kenyon Martin?
Yeah,
who did he dunk
Cincinnati.
On? Yeah, that was disgusting.
Yeah. But I mean, with the mid majors and even high major, I mean, that's one of the reasons we started this podcast. Did we
really?
Well, you and I were talking. We're like,
no. You didn't. It wasn't you and I talking. It was you making me believe into this. You didn't crush me,
fun?
Baby. I'm always having fun with you.
Yeah, but I mean, our next guest is like such a testament to that. Like, I love talking to guys like this next coach because, like, he's. Basketball has been part of his DNA since he was a little kid, and like he is. And I mean, how many of us just dream about playing basketball when we started, like in our driveways? Whether it's playing professionally or coaching, and like he has lived his dream, and now has his second opportunity to be a head coach at a very good program.
Yeah, Indiana State, baby, the Sycamores.
And we
didn't talk about Larry Bird.
I know. We'll have to save that for the season.
Yeah, he wants to come back. He's a great guy. We have Matthew Graves, who is a sharpshooter for Butler and is the new head coach at Indiana State. He was the associate head coach the last couple of years. And I mean, Indiana State, I'm sorry, deserved to be in the NCAA tournament, as did Seton Hall, as did USF. But it didn't happen. But they had a nice run. And it's kind of interesting. He even brought this up, that they went on this run and it probably hurt them in recruiting. That they continued to win.
They were late to get to the transfer portal. That I don't want to ruin the analogy he gave because it is so good, and I want it to come from his mouth in our upcoming episode.
Yeah.
But he said that, and I'm like, how true is that? Like what it's like to get to the transfer portal and recruiting scene late when your team makes a deep run, whether it's the NIT or the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the nature of college basketball now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love some of his recruiting stories. And, he said he got hit by a pillow. I think he was getting suffocated by his friend, who's a well-known and well-respected NBA. He's not a coach anymore. He's a GM, right?
He's the GM of the world champs.
Yeah, Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
So whatever happened to Danny Ainge?
I don't know. Moved on.
Is he the president?
Maybe. We'll have to do some look up and some research. But Coach Graves, I mean, it's I think there was a lot of anticipation when Coach Schertz transitioned into St. Louis, that Coach Graves was going to be the next head coach at Indiana State. He talks a little bit about he called it the newness at Indiana State. And I mean, it was, I knew that there's a new AD there now. There's a new school president. And he's like, yeah, there's also like 3 or 4 other new women's basketball coach, new softball coach. Like, it's like this new scene in Terre Haute now when it comes to athletics. And it is a very athletic centric town and university. It seems like when things are going well, like, I mean, it's just really good community there. And you saw that last year with the run that the team made. And, but Coach Graves was, to me, just the perfect fit to step into this role. He has head coaching experience. I mean, his network is incredible with who he knows around the country. And it's going to be interesting to see like what happens to this team next year. A lot of new players there, a lot of young guys. He talked a little bit about his recruiting style and how it's a little different than how some other head coaches are handling the transfer portal and high school recruiting. But I think this is also an example of you have to make the best of the situation with when he was brought in, right?
Yeah.
And like his positivity, his optimism, I mean, that's going to transition directly down to his players. And I mean, he said it firsthand. I mean, their goal is when they get to St. Louis next year for Arch Madness, the tournament, to put themselves in a position to win that tournament. And as a fan, like that's what you want to hear from any school, right? Especially when there's going to be some rebuilding processes, whether it takes a couple months, it takes a year. Every year when you get to that conference tournament championship, you want to know that your school is prepared and is in a position to potentially win that tournament.
But isn't that half the conference this year with all the new hires? I mean,
it's crazy. I mean, the whole
and guys that have transferred out, it's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a completely new conference, from the players that left to the players who got in, the coaches. And I do think there is something to be said about the consistency of having an associate head coach like Coach Graves last year moving into a head coach. He has that familiarity with the school. He has that familiarity with the community, right? He has that familiarity with the boosters. I mean, he even said it. It's like, I mean, they're selling and their ticket sales are going really well. Like that's, I
hold
think
out the lower bowl almost, I think he said, which is
that's so hard as a new head coach to come in there. If you were going to a new program in a different city, different conference, like you're part of all that transition. You're part of the business development of the program. And so, I mean, for him to move into this role, I love that move by the university. I love it for Coach Graves. I think this team is going to be gritty. I think they're going to play hard. And I think that they're going to surprise a couple people in conference.
Yeah. And I think they're going to shoot the ball. I mean, Matthew Graves was a shooter. Yeah. They're going to shoot. They're going to shoot. So let's get on to the episode. It's a good one. So let's enjoy Indiana State's University new men's head basketball coach, Matthew Graves on the Full Court Press podcast, a college basketball experience.
Let's get it, LT.
So Sam, our next guest, I'm going to tell you something. I actually have a past he doesn't know about. Oh. And I don't know if I should sing this fight song to get him a little bit going, but I'm going to, because you know how much I love to sing.
Let's hear it.
UIC, do UIC, we're the Flames, of Chicago, do. So I was at the University of Illinois Chicago playing a little sports in the old Midwestern Collegiate Conference.
Oh wow!
I got you, baby. Yeah. I know about you and your damn whole family. I don't like him. I don't like him.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I still can't believe they still play in the pavilion.
Oh, I got some funny stories. So this is the first person we've ever had from Swit City, Indiana. Population 311.
Might be the last, huh? You know?
I was unless we're going to interview any of your brothers, I'm not sure many people are coming out of there who want to talk basketball.
No, but you know the hard part though, and this is where I'm going to get you.
Mhm.
You know, you had off air we were talking about your little water situation. You know, my family business is Graves Plumbing.
Oh, very good.
How far do you go where you start? You don't charge me a service charge.
You know what? I got out of that business because they work way too hard. When I was in high school, and everything from carrying pipe to digging ditches to cleaning out boiler rooms, I realized that they work way too hard. So I wanted to navigate over into this basketball world and enjoy.
Yeah. Sam, I think he's telling us that basketball coaches don't work too hard.
I don't know about that. Maybe years past. This year, it seems like everybody's working extra hard with all the changes. But to formally make the introduction, we've got head coach of Indiana State Sycamores, Matthew Graves. Welcome, Coach.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about Swit City. Luke already said population 311. It does seem like there is, I want to see the stat of how many head coaches in Division I basketball are from the state of Indiana, because it seems like we interview a lot of them.
Yeah. In Swit City, what's ironic is, you go and you blink your eyes and you miss it. And there's one red flashing light there, and a lot of cornfields, used to be a lot of coal mines in that area. But here's the crazy part. Our gymnasium seats about 3,000 people. And back in the early 90s, back when I played, it was packed. Sellout crowds, people would come from everywhere, and and in Southern Indiana, it's basketball, and people come to watch. From the next county over.
Coach, wouldn't you say everywhere in Indiana is basketball, though?
You know what? I might get I got to be careful, because I may recruit kids from certain areas. There's certain parts of the state that I think they're turning into a little bit football heavy for my liking.
Ooh, okay.
Kind of feels like my time back in Mobile when it was all football. So there's certain parts of the state that I think are migrating to the gridiron and a little bit away from basketball, but certainly in Southern Indiana, that's where it's at.
So there's an old saying that's like, everybody in Indiana has a hoop in their backyard. You had 6 hoops in your yard at one point?
Yep. At one point, there was a goal in the garage. There was a goal on the hill that was the cornfield in the background, and we had that was kind of our mini full court, if you will. We had a little dunking goal. We had another goal we shot free throws on that had a smaller rim. And then my little brother, AJ, who ended up being the best player of us all at the time, he had his little goal that was about, 4 or 5 feet tall off the ground. So the funny story was when we would play 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, and his ball would roll onto our court, and we'd give it a good kick, and it'd be down the hill, and we'd see him 5 minutes later, running back to get his shots up. So it's crazy down there.
Was your mom more a power forward or a point guard or a shooting guard? How was your mom's game?
You know what? My mom was terrible. She was a great rebounder. She would go out there and rebound for us, but unfortunately, she didn't play any, and she was only about 5'5". So I was very fortunate that I was able to grow and be about 6'3" and able to play a little bit.
Yeah. Those days when you were playing in college, the Midwestern Collegiate, man, that was where it was at. I mean, you look at, UIC, we had Coach Collins, who was, a big recruiter at Illinois. Then after one of his good friends, Bruce Pearl, joined Wisconsin Milwaukee. That's a really bad joke because they didn't like each other. You had, UDM had Perry Watson,
Yep.
who recruited the whole Fab Five. You had, your coach Licklider. I mean, was a well-respected coach. And then obviously down the road, I mean, you had Barry Collier at Butler. I mean, you had obviously Brad Stevens, who you coached with. Chris Holtman, who we had last week, who you obviously know, was a Butler head coach. But then you had Loyola with Larry Farmer. I mean, Loyola had
you had a lot of great players. And what people don't realize, and this was my senior year at Butler in '98, the Midwestern Collegiate Conference actually got 3 teams into the NCAA tournament that year.
We played in Hartford against UNC Charlotte, and UNC Charlotte was good.
Yeah. We played in Rupp Arena. We played New Mexico, and they were a 4 seed, and we got beat in the first round. But Detroit, I believe that year beat, was it Princeton? Or
they beat someone. Didn't they have like Jermaine Jackson? They had that little point, like really fast point guard or shooting guard.
Yep.
Played in the NBA a little bit.
Jermaine Jackson was there, and then Rashad Phillips was a freshman or sophomore that year.
Yeah. How'd you like playing against Rolly Massimino at Cleveland State?
Well, since I still hold their arena scoring record, I love playing in that building. So,
isn't it like 11 points? I think it is the record.
42 points. 42 points.
Yeah,
42.
Yeah. The best thing about that is I still somehow found that archived. I have a VHS tape of that, so I can show people that I did play. But the worst thing about it, and honestly, it's not a fun game to talk about, is because we lost. It would have been much better. You guys
lost
story.
To Cleveland State?
Yeah, lost at Cleveland State. So that was a rough trip. We lost. I had 42 at Cleveland State on Thursday night. Loss. We had travel partners back then, so we went to Detroit, and I actually had 30 at Detroit, and we lost again. So I don't know if I was scoring too many points and I needed to quit shooting or what the case might be, but that was a tough, bad road trip for us that year.
Yeah. Tell me what it was like the first time you went into Hinkle Fieldhouse. I'll tell you the first time I went to Hinkle Fieldhouse. You know what I did? Hickory.
I was going to say, did you yell Hickory?
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'll never forget the first time I went in there. I was invited to watch a game, and I came up, and it was when Notre Dame played Butler, and growing up. I wanted to go to Notre Dame. People always ask in Southern Indiana, were you a big, Indiana basketball fan? And, I liked watching the Hoosiers and, watching Bob Knight, and didn't watch a lot of Purdue basketball and Gene Cady growing up, but, I really like Notre Dame as well. And,
LaFonso Ellis.
Yep. And it was one of those deals where I just wasn't good enough to play, at Notre Dame or IU. So, ultimately, having the opportunity to go to Butler was really cool. But being able to be in that arena and see how is the old school feel, when you walk into it, and then being able to play in there, the floor is unbelievable. It's an unbelievable shooting, a cool story. And back in the 90s, when we would play, back then people actually still played open gym. Now I don't think anybody plays open gym anymore. You have to, if you don't have a trainer with you, you can't work out. So, nobody plays, 5-on-5 anymore. But back then the Pacers did not have a practice facility. So in the summertime, the guys that were still around, they would come in and play. So, guys like Fred Hoiberg, Derek Smits, Derek McKee, Vern Fleming,
Detlef Shrimp.
No, Detlef didn't play, but Antonio Davis, Dale Davis, those guys would play. It was a lot of fun in the summertime when those guys would play. And in the fall, right before their training camp really got going, Reggie Miller made a couple cameos. Chuck Person came in there and
the
played.
rifleman. Yeah.
So it was a really neat experience. And then obviously the Pacers were really good there, in the 90s. And if it wasn't, for a guy named Michael Jordan, they might have had a couple championships opportunities. But that was a really fun time to be a part of Hinkle Fieldhouse and be there playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. So, Coach, fast forward to like where you're at today, head coach at Indiana State. It's almost like there's a new look of Indiana State. Everybody kind of followed the program last year under Coach Schertz and what you guys accomplished there. So congratulations. And then that transition. During that kind of week where you served as interim coach before you were accepted the job and everything like that, you talked to
5 days, Sam. 5 days, not a week. 5 days.
Five long days.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
5 long days. Yeah, but yeah, I'm sure you had conversations with Dr. Curtis and Angie Lansing. Now you have a new president, a new AD. Like, what's the culture? You as new head coach, and then now you have a new AD, new president. What's that culture like, kind of around Terre Haute?
I think it's evolving. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of anticipation for what's to come next. I mean, in addition to, having a new president, a new AD, new men's basketball coach, there's a new women's coach, there's a new baseball coach, there's a new softball coach,
new mascot.
And we're in the process of hiring a new facilities guy. So it's a lot of change, but at the same time, people sometimes see change as negative. It's like, why is everybody leaving? What's going on at that place? And here, really, people are very optimistic and they're excited. It's kind of like having new blood and being able to reinvigorate things and keep things going and tap into new resources and have new ideas out there. So there's a lot of excitement and everybody's anxious to really see where we all can go. And it's kind of what's neat about it, even though, this is my 4th year at Indiana State, I feel like, moving over a seat and into the head coaching role, I'm on this journey with all those guys and we're all, doing this together. And I think it's going to be, a lot of fun and I'm excited to see, where it's going to go.
Yeah, it was really interesting, the whole, because you guys were doing so well. I would like to say we kind of called it before it actually the mainstream media did, because we had Coach Schertz, we had Isaiah Swoop, or as I called him, Swope. Okay, and Sam still cursed me. We had Robbie Avila, so we had him on before all the mainstream media, and we called it. But you guys finished 32-7, 17-3, I think, in conference.
Yep.
And they're talking about this NCAA tournament expansion. And my big thing is, if you win your conference in certain conferences like the Missouri Valley, you should get an automatic bid. But that's here nor there. Okay. You agree with me. I know. Come on, agree with me. Just agree with me. I do. I'm a UIC grad, come on.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. I do think the one thing I would like to see, and then we could spend hours talking about, tournament expansion and things like that. But, I do agree. I think the regular season champ, does, deserve an opportunity to play. And then I also do think the tournament champ, deserves an opportunity.
Yep.
And, you figure out the formula. And again, I don't know what the exact numbers would be, but if you have the same team win the regular season and the same team win the tournament championship, that just creates an extra at-large for the pool. And I think it would, I don't think it would detract from, the tournament as is. I think you would only end up adding, a dozen teams maybe at max by doing it that way. So I think it still would have that same excitement. And, I wouldn't want to lose the excitement of tournament week also, because can you imagine that, in the Missouri Valley, if the regular season champion, went to the NCAA tournament? I think that's terrific. I agree. I think that should happen. But could you imagine if you're playing a tournament and the winner gets nothing?
Yeah.
I think that would take a lot of flair away from, those tournaments. And I would hate to see that as well. So I think you have to balance both sides of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's too many great Cinderella stories that happen during tournament week. You know, you look at NC State this past year, right? You know, and it's like, they wouldn't have been close to being a bubble team, but they took out their tournament and then they just kept rolling, right?
So why not figure out a way to promote as many great stories as you can throughout the tournament? And that's, ultimately, most of the time the teams that are supposed to make the Final Four, most of them do. But that one time, every other year that a team makes that run, it really makes it a special deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
When you were part of that Butler coaching staff, 2 national championship games in a row, or 2 years in a row, like what were those moments like as part of your career and being a part of those young guys and Brad Stevens, like kind of jumping to where he is? You were right there during it all.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, being, a former player at Butler, and then, you're coaching, your team that you grew up, being a part of for so many years. We make that NCAA tournament in 2010, and, as we start to play and beat a good team, beat a couple good teams early, you just get in that mode of preparing. And, the next game and the next game. But what the craziest thing, and I'll never forget this. You know how they have at the Final Four, they have those open practices.
We were there. Yep.
Yeah. And we're sitting there. I'm talking with Micah Shrewsbury, who's now the head coach at Notre Dame. And we're sitting there in the tunnel. And that was the first time when I was talking to him, it really hit me. That's like, damn. We're in the Final Four, and it's in your backyard, and you're going out there for an hour just to shoot around, and there are 30,000 people there to watch you practice for an hour. And it's something that I will never forget, that brief moment before we stepped out there and went out onto the court. It was unbelievable.
We got we got media credentials somehow. Thank you. David Warlock, obviously, big out to Dave Warlock, and here, thanks to Sam, obviously, and his great wordage. But we went and we were in Arizona, and I will tell you, it didn't hit me. We met Shaq, we met Charles Barkley. We're in all the locker rooms. We're interviewing Danny Hurley, one-on-one, Coach Painter, all these guys, DJ Burns. I followed him or stalked him in Pittsburgh all the way to Phoenix. But when it really hit me is, but just as the final game is going on, and we were on the floor, and the freaking noise, it was like, Purdue versus UConn. I'm like, holy shit, we're really here.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And people, you get the question asked, and I'm sure you guys have heard it, and you've talked to coaches. Do people really like playing in those domes? Yes, you can get 60, 70,000 people in there to see.
Absolutely not. The sight lines are shit for shooters.
It makes it hard. And you say that, and that's one of the worst memories. When we played Duke in the first one, you walked away, and it's like, man, that was a heck of a ball game. And obviously, if Gordon's shot goes in,
an inch,
he'll make a hell of a movie, right? Or 30 for 30. And next year, you go and play against UConn in Houston, and you're walking off the floor like you gave one away. As poorly as we shot the ball, and just it's just such different feelings of, yes, you lost both of them, but one, it was like, man, you were right there, and then the UConn game was just, man, nobody could make a shot, and we were worse.
Yeah. It's tough. So we talked a little bit about like the new culture, right, at Indiana State. Everyone's excited. Like, what were in today's day and age with college basketball? There's really not a week off in your job, and especially in the spring and summertime with all the movement that's happening. What's the first thing you did once you took over? Was it roster management? Was it coaches? Like, where was your head during those weeks?
Great question. Luckily my head was still on. It was spinning. It was spinning really fast, but it was still attached. I'll say this. I in that moment, I was glad that I had experience had been a head coach before. That certainly helped. That kind of slowed things down for me. But the first thing I really wanted to address was this coaching staff. I felt like that was the most important thing, and that was the thing I wanted to get right. We were so late in the transfer portal. Had been going for over a month. Obviously it was great that we kept playing, and that certainly helped pay some dividends in the recruiting process with the portal. But we missed out on guys that we might have had because they were already off the board. But I wanted to get it right with the coaching staff. So really spent, time digging into that and getting surrounding myself with, guys that really were going to help us succeed. And part of the reason in doing that is when we go out and recruit transfer kids or high school kids, it's important for me that they know who they're going to be surrounded by. And that's a big thing. We've got to be a player development program. If we're living in the portal every year with trying to get 7, 8, 9 guys, we're not going to be as successful as we need to be. So for us to be successful, we got to recruit mostly young guys, develop them, hold on to them for as long as we can. And that's how we're going to be successful. And that takes a great staff. And that was my number one focus, is putting together a staff. And I'm really, really happy with who we got.
Yeah, and it's crazy that you got a guy to leave New Orleans to come back to Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, what's up with that, Coach?
You know what? That's a 30-year relationship, calling in a favor there. So
all right.
You talk about a lot of head coaches, around in the area. Yeah. I mean, he grew up 20, 25 minutes away from me. Dusty May is about 20 minutes away from Swit City. So, you got a lot of good basketball coaches in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. I like some of the names of I like one player's name in particular that you brought in, Camp Wagner. Is that his real name or is that like his stage name? Because that's a Camp Wagner.
Yep, Camp Wagner.
I love it. And he's a ball player. And it's funny. So how did that work? He played against you, scored 11 points against you guys at Rice. Like, how does that work? I mean, are you kind of, in the new day and age of the transfer portal, are you kind of scouting players that you might play against? I mean, how does that work?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes, but also Camp was a guy that was on our recruiting list initially. Okay. We had recruited him, and he had actually he and his family had been on an official visit, prior to committing to Rice. So we ended up getting him, on the second round, as they say. And, we've been very fortunate. Ryan Conwell, who was a tremendous player for us last year, that was the first guy that we brought on campus when, Coach Schertz hired me. We brought him on and offered him, and, we didn't get him the first time, but boy, I'm glad we did the second time. Another one, Jason Kent, he was on Bradley's roster, and, we were able to get him, and, a huge part of that was, his high school teammate, Robbie. You're exactly right, though. We are aware of kids out there that we're recruiting kids right now that we know we're not going to get on the front end. We are recruiting them for the bounce back. And every year our staff, we want to recruit, half a dozen or so kids that, we feel like they may end up going to a level that it's a little bit too high, or maybe they end up at the wrong fit. But we want to target, 6, 8, maybe 10 guys that, we feel like in a year or maybe 2 that we've built a relationship. And when they do go in the portal, we have a great opportunity to get them back here, to Indiana.
Yeah, that sounds like, Sam, really good marriage advice. work on the first one, and if the hot chick doesn't make the first one, you get her on the second or third time.
There you go.
Rebound.
Yep.
There you go. No, I mean, that's an interesting philosophy. I mean, we haven't really heard that as well. You know, we also hear coaches talking about, building older rosters, but you're coming in this from a player development standpoint.
Yeah.
Right?
We're going at it in a little different way. And, people, some of my friends and other colleagues are like, you're nuts to do it that way. But
I was thinking the same thing, Coach.
But, for us, if you think about it, every year, let's say you bring in 4 or 5 freshmen, and those 4 or 5 freshmen, you're not going to hit on all of them. You're not going to bat 100%. But what you got to do is you're going to try to develop all of them, and the 2 or 3 that you hit on, you got to keep them and roll them over. And the ones you miss on that decide to move on for various reasons, that's where you go in the portal and pick the pieces up. And, that's we've got to use the transfer portal more as supplementing spots. We need to use our NIL and resources like that for retention. And I think, for us, that's our niche. And furthermore, though, it's really what this Wabash Valley area and the city of Terre Haute, that's what they want to see. They want to get a chance to get to know these guys and rally around them. And you have to experience the Holman Center full, and when it's rocking in there, and those fans getting to know our players, that's a really special thing for this area, and that's what we're going to really try to recreate.
Yeah.
With the summer practices now kind of underway, are there any players that you're like, wow, we really hit the jackpot with some of these guys who are really showing up right now?
They're doing well. There's some kids in there that's like, especially a couple of our freshmen that I feel like they've got a bright future. It's going to still take some time, and a lot of inexperience. We have 8 freshmen and sophomores on our roster. No juniors and 4 seniors. So, you're shaking your head. It's going to be some growing pains.
I looked at your roster a couple days ago, and I was like, you're missing some kind of mid experience. You got a lot of young guys. Then you got a couple of good graduate seniors as well. We
feel good about, the older guys. And again, with the young guys, when you start on May 1st, the selection is not great. It's the best analogy I heard, and it was really funny. A coach said, it's like you go to a garage sale, in a neighborhood garage sale, but you show up at noon to do your shopping.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a pretty good analogy. We were able to show up at noon at a garage sale, and we were able to, put together some pretty good pieces. And we've got some guys that have some room for growth and development, but there's no substitute for experience. We understand that, and we just got to continue to get better. But the biggest thing is we've got guys that are excited because they know they're going to have an opportunity. Yeah. And that, sometimes, when guys have an opportunity, you get a little bit more out of them.
Yeah. The Full Court Press podcast, we're going to be a garage sale advice and marriage advice.
But you wanted to cover all kinds of things, right?
Yeah, I know. We're not just college basketball centric anymore. But, I like some of these transfers. Marcus Hardy was at Central Michigan, a ball player. Aaron Gray was at Niagara.
Shout out to Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto. Tyron Cook at VMI. So you got a couple guys that were averaging double digits in some pretty good mid-major programs.
Yeah, we wanted to target some guys that really fit the way, we're continuing to try to play. I mean, the one thing, I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. Coach Schertz had a really, obviously he's a very good basketball coach, but he's a brilliant offensive mind. And the way that we want to play is going to be very similar. Obviously, you got to have all the pieces to be able to do that. And it's going to look clunky at times, but that similar style of playing fast and being disciplined with, your shot selection, threes and rim shots, that's going to carry over. And we felt like we've recruited some guys that will help do that. Tyron, has great speed and can touch paint. Marcus Harding is a really skilled post player that can step out, and his 3-point shooting ability has really, you talked earlier, who surprised me. he shoots the ball a lot cleaner than, what I even imagined that it could be. So, I'm really excited about those guys.
Yeah, good. Sam, I think he's ready, huh?
Let's do it. So, Coach, we do a little thing called the shot clock here. LT is going to fire off 6, 7, just fast, easy. I think they're easy. You never know. But if it leads to a one-word answer, let it rip. If you want to tell a short little story, let's hear it. So,
okay.
LT, let's get it.
If you give bad answers, they'll take away your Butler University diploma. So, all right, one word to describe Butler.
Family.
Okay. One word to describe Indiana State.
Family.
You have to have a different answer.
Oh, you didn't put that in the rules to begin with.
All right, that's fine. Okay, family. That was safe. Okay. We're gonna speed it up a little bit here. What is your spirit animal?
Tiger.
Oh, you've been asked that before, huh?
No. You know what? You know where I came up with that?
What's that?
In high school, before we consolidated, we were the Central Tigers. So I'd been the Tiger forever. So
okay. Funniest recruiting story.
Man.
Now the person before you ate some really bad chili. Coach Schertz ate some really bad chili. I don't know if you're with him or not.
I was not. Man, I don't. I'm terrible at this game here. Funniest recruiting story.
Is there a recruiting story that just kind of holds with you? Like that, one day you might want to tell your grandkids that you're like, hey, I got this guy and this is what it took.
Or not tell your grandkids.
There you
go. No, I will say this though, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna put myself on, kind of embarrass myself here a little bit. So, back, this was when I was an assistant at Butler, and Coach Stevens was also an assistant, and we were in Vegas recruiting, and at the end, Vegas, the big Vegas tournaments at the end of the year, and you've been out on the road for 10, 15 days and you're tired. And I've got this problem with snoring. And, if you ask my wife, she hates it. But so at Butler, we on the road, budget wise back then, to save money, we had to share rooms. And so we're sharing a room and I'm asleep. And the next thing I know, somebody is beating the hell out of me with a pillow. He has just lost his mind and hitting me over because I am snoring. He said, "You're snoring so loud." We've been recruiting all this time, and I say, that's probably one of the funniest
that's
things we laugh about. So yeah, my snoring on the road is bad.
Yeah. Are you still friends then with Brad Stevens?
We're very good friends. He's a very good colleague.
Yeah, though he tried to suffocate you, but we won't go there. Favorite arena that you played in and favorite arena to coach in?
Favorite arena to play in by far would be Hinkle Fieldhouse.
All right, second favorite then?
Man, trying to think.
What was it like playing in Rupp, like in the NCAA tournament? Like
it was good. It was good to play in Rupp. But I'm trying to think of a more of a hostile type. One of those. I'll tell you what, my favorite arena to play on the road was against Evansville at the old Roberts Stadium.
Wow.
That was a very, one of the best places. Their fans were right on top of you. And it was one of the, best arenas that I ever had a chance to play in was, at Rupp Arena.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your favorite arena to coach in? Who is the nicest opponent, let's say, as a crowd?
The nicest opponent as a crowd? Man, you're set. I got to probably go. You know, I enjoyed coaching against Bob Marlin at Louisiana Lafayette.
Oh yeah,
I love
Love
the
we
raging.
love
Hey,
Bob show.
hey, those raging Cajuns down there. Woo, they were something else. They were something else. But that was a good. That was always a great rivalry. Good environment, and
Yeah.
you know, I enjoyed that one.
Okay.
yeah. We had Coach Marlin, and what was he talking about? One of his buddies, they were getting on him about his ears or something like that.
Oh man, I don't know. Yeah, he's a good dude, and he's got some great stories, and I forget his recruiting story was great because it was like he's like I just take him out for good food, and he's like that's
no, he's a friend of mine, and you know that was a fun environment for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The song that best describes you.
You know, I'm a big soundtrack guy, so you know, I love the Rocky IV soundtrack.
The Rocky soundtrack, love it.
Yep. Rocky IV soundtrack. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
The Rocky IV sound.
Yeah.
Can't say I've ever heard the Rocky 1, 2, or 3, but I'll listen now for Rocky 4.
That is the best soundtrack. There's 4 or 5 really good training montages throughout that one.
Yep, absolutely. Shot a lot of basketballs to that montage.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Okay. Okay. That's an interesting picture, but okay. So they decided to make a Hollywood movie about your life. Who would play you in that Hollywood movie?
Man, I don't know. Maybe a guy like Tom Hanks.
Oh.
Okay. Nice. That was good. Interesting answer. We'll take it. I like it.
Yeah. I can see it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the most popular one has been Denzel Washington, but
we got people of all races and ethnicities saying they want Denzel to play him.
Yeah. I mean, I would too.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So, Coach, you won nothing. You got nothing. You'll probably never speak to us again, but hopefully you. I love the furry animal, the tiger.
No, the tiger's great. So before I turn it over to you, Coach, I was reading an article from like 2011 from a guy named David Woods, the Indiana Star.
Yeah.
You know, he asked you about like what you're looking for in a head coaching job. This was before you were at South Alabama, right?
Okay.
And your answer was, it's about establishing a culture. It's not about a recruiting quick fix. Establishing a program built on character and values is much more important to me than trying to figure out a quick way to win.
Yep.
So that was 2011. It seems like today's head coaching, there's limited time to win.
Yeah.
Right. Like how important is that to build that culture and balance it with the expectations that are put on you as a head coach now?
Yeah, there's no question. That's pretty good digging in the old archives there. I like that. You know, it's, you know, part of me, honestly, it's a sad reality of how things where they've gone, in my opinion. And, you know, some people might say, you're just too old school with it. But, you know, I do really miss, I think kids are missing out today on the experiences of being at a school for 4 years, and they're missing out on the relationship piece that's going to help them 20, 30, 40 years down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's going to be a lot of kids that look back and, you know, they went to school for 4 years and they made no relationships because they were gone. They really aren't 1 year rentals. They're about 9-10 month rentals. By the time they get on campus in June and they're in the portal in March, you know, it's a 9 or 10 month, you know, marriage, and they do it 4 times and, you know, they don't have anything to show for it. And it's really a sad thing. And, you know, hopefully, you know, in the grand scheme of things, there's a way to figure this thing out and get it somewhat back on the rails, but I have no idea how that's going to happen. Yeah. But, you know, it's turned into speed dating, you know, with building a roster, and, you know, it's, you try to make the best of it that you can, but it is in a lot of places, you know, win earlier, you know, than, you know, the trying to have a, you know, 4 or 5 year plan, you know, those are close to non-existent, unless you're at a really good place that understands, you know, values and really puts in the work that this is a family, it's a community. But ultimately, you can do a lot of great things in the community. You can graduate all your players. You can be an upstanding citizen. But if, your number on the left side is not more than the one on the right side, you're probably going to have a short career. And, it's just the unfortunate nature of the business. And, hopefully you're able to align yourself with people that kind of see past some of that and look at the big picture. And, I'm hopeful that, we can do a lot of those things here at Indiana State.
Yeah. We actually I read an article. I've got a quote from you from an article from 1997. The Bulldog Gazette, the Butler student newspaper, said, "There's not enough beer at Dick Clark's for you to slow you down."
Well, if it was Miller Lite, then I guess we're okay. So,
no, that's great. That's great. Well, Coach, we're going to turn it over to you the last minute of the show. Anything you want to share with the Terre Haute community, Indiana State alumni, boosters, student sections? What are the guys working on this summer? Like, any games you have circled on your calendar? What can they expect coming out of the gates from you guys?
We're just excited about the newness. Season tickets are going well. We've got the lower bowl almost sold out, so I'm really appreciative of the community, the fans, boosters, staying with us. It's going to be a process, and everybody says that, but with 10 new guys and some guys that didn't get an opportunity to play as much as they would have liked last year. We're a team that's going to continue to get better. We're going to be a team that this community is going to be proud of. We're going to play really good basketball. And at the end, this is our goal. And I've said this our first team meeting. We want a team that's good enough in March when we get on that bus to go over to Arch Madness to compete for the national, the be able
tournament
to
champion and make it to the tournament. Yeah,
make it to the tournament.
Love it.
So that's our goal. And how we get there, it's going to be up and down. It's going to be a little bit clunky. We're not going to hide from that. And but we're going to get better. And like I said, come March when we get on that bus, we'll be ready to roll.
Yeah. And I think the Missouri Valley, for the most part, is a lot of coaches and programs going to be in your shoes. Because I feel like with the Missouri Valley and the American Athletic Conference, there's kind of like the most picked over rosters.
Yeah.
And amount of new coaches you have in Missouri Valley is ridiculous. I mean, SIU, UIC, Indiana State. I'm missing, I think, one or two. Oh, Drake, obviously.
Yep, Missouri State.
Yeah. We've had Coach.
Red Coach, though.
Yep. Yeah, we had Coach so it's going to be interesting. But Coach, we're excited. I just read a post somewhere that you guys are going to be playing at Ohio State, and I might look for the Sycamore Express to get me there to and from. But I might check that one out. But we're really excited. I think it's going to be an exciting time for Indiana State, and more so Missouri Valley Conference. I think it's a conference that well deserves multiple bids. I said it.
I love it. I love it.
I believe it. So you're going to stick with us for one more second. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Check out the Indiana State Sycamores this year with Coach Graves as our first-year head coach. And Sam and I will be back next week on the Full Court Press Podcast, a college basketball experience.